It's Saturday, September 13th, and a new weather pattern has taken full effect across the US today. We have three isolated areas of expected to severe weather. All of them are going to be marginal risk, so nothing really crazy. And the main threat with all these is going to be that damaging wind threat for some 60-mile-an-hour damaging winds. And interestingly, our hail threat actually covers a wider area than our wind threat. We don't normally see this, and this is actually something that's very unique, but this would be for that conditional threat of some 1.5 to potentially even 2 inch in diameter hail in some areas. That threat for some 2 inch in diameter hail would exclusively be in this risk area down here in the southern upper plains. So eastern New Mexico and eastern Colorado. And then our other risk areas are going to be up here in the northern plains and then out here in the Midwest in the kind of the Chicago region as well. Starting with our main risk area, or at least what I believe is going to be our main risk area today, down here in the Upper Plains converted zone in parts of eastern New Mexico and eastern Colorado, we're going to start to see storm initiation really as early as a little before midday. We're going to start to see those storms really get their act together, get organized, start spinning, producing updrafts, and really looking super cellular. And it actually looks like we could have a lot of these storms. It's really going to be widespread and a lot of storm coverage for everybody down here in eastern New Mexico. These storms would likely bring that threat for some 60-mile to potentially even 70-mile-an-hour damaging winds, and also some hail in that 1.5 to 2 inch in diameter range. And these storms will likely kind of pop up all the way up until it turns into a more linear mode, a more outflow dominant line, as before it was more kind of scattered, isolated supercells, even some being discrete almost. And this would happen around the later hours, evening hours, even when the low jet kicks in. I wouldn't be surprised to even see a small potential for a couple of spin up tornadoes with this line as well. Then moving a bit north, this just gives us a better look at our Colorado risk area. We can see that that low pressure center is going to be passing right over the Denver metro, potentially bringing some strong storms with it as well. And this and the trough associated with this kind of vortex or low pressure system is actually going to drape down a bit of a front. So not only will there be synoptic forcing, but there will be frontal forcing as well. And this is our northern marginal risk. I think it's going to be a very, very conditional risk for some severe weather, with most of the severe weather happening in the early hours, actually. This would be for some damaging wind and potentially some small hail. But as we go later into the afternoon, it looks like it's just going to be some thunderstorm activity along a secondary vortex. And then also the same thing with some troughing going on and then a bit of a front drape down from this as well. But as we go later into the afternoon, it looks like it's just going to be some scattered thunderstorms, nothing severe. So it's definitely good news. And then this is our last area of interest. It's going to be down here in the Midwest, likely seeing some storms, potentially even being severe in the early morning hours. That's actually something that we don't normally see. Normally it's in the afternoon, but today in this region, it is going to be before midday. Same thing as the other storm clusters or areas of interest today, mainly being initiated by some troughing. However, this one's a little bit different. It's going to be a redevelopment along a low pressure system or a bit of a short wave in that trough from yesterday. And then that threat with it would likely be over by the early afternoon hours, potentially bringing some 60-mile-an-hour damaging winds, small hail, and that's pretty much it. And here's a better look at that big trough really bringing a lot of weather pretty much to the entire country. We can see that we're going to have a bit of a shortwave eject down here in the upper plains, eastern Colorado and eastern Mexico. That's going to be the reason for that storm cluster out there. And then also we can see a bit of a kink or shortwave kind of pushing down. That kind of represents that port maximum or area of low pressure that I was talking about. And then we can see that secondary area of low pressure up here in the northern plains, and also a lot of flow, bringing some forcing to this area as well. Another thing with this big trough, it's also going to have a short wave pushing through our Midwest risk area. That's going to be why those storms are out there as well. And then a lot of these storms are going to bring a lot of rain, with a rain threat even being seen in Florida today. And with a threat of excessive rainfall, there is, of course, that threat of flash flooding. The main areas to look for are going to be these two site risk, potentially seeing 2 to 4 inches of rain. In both these, we have one up here in the northern plains, mostly far western North Dakota, then another one down here in parts of the Texas Panhandle and eastern New Mexico. Definitely going to want to look out if you're in either of those areas. Then we have a marginal risk, which pretty much spans the entire length of the upper plains as well. 1 to 2 inches rain expected in all of our marginal risk today, so still stay weather aware if you're in either of those. We have another one in our Midwest risk area, then another one in the southeastern corner of Florida. So all things that you're going to want to stay weather aware of if you're in either of those. And then this is the storm environment and what I think will be that main risk area down here in eastern New Mexico and even into parts of eastern Colorado. We're going to notice a couple of things. One is going to be a decent bit of organizing shear, likely being around 35 to 40 knots. So definitely some strong updrafts and organized clusters possible. We also have some weak wind veering coupled with that. One thing to notice is that our lowest cloud level or storm base is going to be a bit higher, really diminishing that threat for tornadoes until that low level jet kicks in and that storm becomes more linear in the later afternoon. But other things to note, we do have enough moisture and enough cape to see severe weather. And then we also have a couple other things like some dry air aloft, a downdraft cape 1100, nothing crazy, and also a pretty low relative humidity. All things that could potentially mean some damaging winds. Now, for our hail threat, it is going to pretty much be carried by that discrete mode and then even a pretty high amount of bulk shear because everything else isn't looking that great. 6.4 Celsius decreasing per kilometer mid-level lapse rate, a really high freezing level, and not much cape up here near our freezing level. So I think that hail threat, seeing some 2-inch in diameter hail, I think that's pretty far-fetched. It would likely just be small hail today in that 1 to 1.5 inch in diameter range. And all the other risk areas, there's not really that much to talk about. There's just going to be quite a bit of bulk or organizing shear and then enough moisture and cape to see those storms be initiated and potentially be severe. And we're going to cap off today's forecast by taking a look out in the tropics. This invest yesterday was only a 30% chance of formation and has been upgraded to a 40% chance of formation. And we could actually potentially see a tropical storm out of this as it moves west through the main development region. Now, it is right about the peak of hurricane season, so this is definitely something that's not unusual this time of year, and it's not really worth guessing where this is going to go as it's only just off the coast of Africa. This is over 2 weeks away from even making it anywhere near the US, but at least for now, the model runs have really shown this only going out to sea and not impacting anybody. So it's definitely good news, and let's hope that trend continues.